If you ask teachers, what do you want for your students? Their resounding answer might well be, success. The very nature of teaching is such that when students are successful, teachers feel successful too. However, the reality is that some students struggle to find success, and some teachers struggle to help them find it. How can teachers get the success they want for every student? Welcome to part 3 of Increasing Their Motivation. In this short podcast, we will talk about success. You will learn the definition of success, how success is related to motivation, how success and failure create predictable student attitudes toward school and learning, and what teachers can do to increase the likelihood of success for students and therefore improve their motivation. Like many things in education, measures of success have changed over time. In the earliest days of education, success meant some students earned high letter grades or percentage scores on accumulated work. By 1980, researchers like William Spady and Albert Mamery were advocating that success meant all students mastered specific learning outcomes. By 2001, PL 107-110, better known as No Child Left Behind, NCLB, stipulated that success meant that all students demonstrated mastery of specific outcomes, mostly in core subjects, as measured by standardized or criterion-referenced assessments administered in elementary, middle, and high school. Over time, have any of these measures of success changed student motivation? Did a grade on the report card really make students more motivated? Did mastering the outcomes make them more motivated? Did demonstrating the skill on a specific assessment make students more motivated? Actually, none of these external measures of success will increase or decrease motivation. External measures of success will not increase motivation because success is intrinsic for students. When it comes to motivation, success is an internal feeling or the lack of it. Thus, success can be different for different students, situational in nature, or contextual in nature. Standards-based educators believe that all students can succeed, success breeds success, and teachers control the conditions for success. Over time, frequent successes or failures impact how students see themselves as learners. In 1992, motivation researcher M.V. Covington pointed out that school presents students with a special ability game that can be difficult to win. Over time, frequent successes and failures cause them to develop one of 3 perspectives about the game of school. Success-oriented students see themselves as academically competent. Failure avoiders are uncertain about the probability of success. Failure acceptors see themselves as doomed from the outset. The pattern that Covington established has been strengthened and clarified by other educational researchers since his definitive study. In 2001, assessment guru Rick Stiggins described these 3 types of students very accurately. He said success-oriented students have had repeated successes in the classroom. When they do fail, they know that the problem can be corrected if they work harder and smarter. So they do. Usually, harder, smarter work results in more success. Failure avoiders have failed enough to doubt their own abilities and become apathetic. Additional failures just reinforce their sense of inadequacy. When they do succeed, they fear they didn't deserve the success, or think that the success was an accident that can't happen again. Failure acceptors have experienced so much failure over time that they have given up on themselves and school. There is no desire to try left in them. They become mental dropouts or practice learned helplessness. Researchers agree that in any given year, teachers are likely to get some students who fall into each of these 3 categories. What can the teacher do when these students show up in the classroom? Confidence is the key to success in all learning situations. Teachers must do three things: keep students from losing confidence in themselves as learners to begin with, and build confidence by reinforcing that success is a result of skill or effort or both, and rekindle confidence among those who have lost faith in themselves as capable learners. Why work so hard at creating, building, or rebuilding students' self-confidence? After all, confidence building isn't one of the outcomes that most teachers are required to teach. Cognitive researcher Benjamin Bloom said it best: success or lack of success in a school subject eventually is a major force in determining how the student feels about the subject and his desire to learn more about that subject. So how should teachers address the issue of success in the classroom? When it comes to academic achievement, think of success as clearing an intellectual high jump bar under strict conditions. Just recognize that the conditions are different for students and teachers. To feel success, students must expend effort to accomplish a worthwhile task and have a degree of uncertainty about the outcome. To encourage success, teachers must control the level of difficulty of the task for all students and use teaching skills that make success for every student possible. Let's take a closer look at how these student and teacher conditions can impact learning in every classroom every day. For example, what does it mean when we say that students must expend effort to accomplish a worthwhile task? Well, suppose an average high school student is asked to practice tying his shoe for the next 10 minutes. He will probably be successful, but he won't necessarily feel successful. Then, suppose a kindergartner is asked to practice tying his shoe for the same 10 minutes, and that he actually accomplishes this task for the first time ever. He will certainly be successful, but more importantly, he will feel successful. Motivation is all about feeling successful. To pick the right task, teacher diagnosis is critical. Suppose you are about to teach a lesson on what causes the seasons. Who in the class can describe this already? Who has no idea what causes the seasons? Or suppose the lesson is on how to write a bibliography. Which students can do it without the lesson? Which students have difficulty putting a list of words in alphabetical order? Finally, suppose you want to teach blending of words with short vowel sounds. Who can read already? Who doesn't even know consonant sounds? As you think about each of these tasks, ask yourself which students in your classroom would be expending effort to accomplish a worthwhile task, and which ones wouldn't. What does it mean to say that students must have a degree of uncertainty about the outcome? Wouldn't it be more logical to think that we want all students to know they can do the tasks we assign in the classroom? Think about this. If the high school track star can clear the high jump easily because the bar is set too low at track practice, he may be so certain of success that he may not even jump. However, if a non-athletic student thinks the bar is set too high, he may be so certain of failure that he won't jump either. To identify the right outcome, teacher diagnosis is critical. For example, look at personal experiences for students in your class. Should the unit on space science look different for a student who has spent 2 summers at space camp? Look at past performance for students in your class. Should students who are repeating an English class read the same literature selections and have the same learning goals the second time through? Look at testing data for students in your class. Should students who don't know the multiplication tables do long division without a calculator? If students already know that they can do what we are asking them to do, or that they can't, they have very little motivation to try it. What does it mean to say that teachers must control the level of difficulty of the task for all students? Aren't all our students in the same class? Think about this. If you ask your 9th grade students to read a novel that is written at the college level, Those who are already reading at the college level may say, "I've already read it," while those who are reading at the 4th grade level may look at it and say, "There's no way." To pick the right level of difficulty, teacher analysis is critical. For example, you can decide how much students should continue to practice the times tables if you know they've already mastered them. You can vary the standard of performance by asking some students to write 1 paragraph while you ask others to write 3. You can ask some students to do visual spatial activities and others to do verbal sequential tasks because you know your students' modality preferences. One of the basic premises of standards-based education is that teachers control the conditions for success. Controlling the level of difficulty of the task is one way teachers can control the conditions for success. Teachers can also control the conditions for success by using varied teaching strategies to meet the needs of all students. Think about this. If you require students to work alone, doing exactly the same things at exactly the same time in exactly the same way, which of your students will finish the lesson in a flash, while others fall off the lesson plan and don't finish it at all? And how would things be better if you allowed students to work together? To pick the right teaching skills, teacher analysis is critical. You can decide how to present information so that students with different learning styles can all learn it equally well. You can decide whether students will work alone, work with partners, or work as a large group. You can decide whether you will call on students one at a time or use active participation strategies to get all students simultaneously involved in congruent activities or questions. Teachers get to decide how they will teach. In making this decision, they also often decide whether or not students will be successful. What can teachers do to increase the likelihood that all students in their classrooms will be successful? How might using the following teaching strategies improve the likelihood of success for individual students? Scaffolding teaching materials from easiest to hardest. Directing questions to students based on their ability to answer them. Deliberately building small groups to include students with all ranges of ability. Finding multiple ways to have students actively participate in guided and independent practice. Differentiating instruction, process, products, and assessments. Using frequent formative assessments and tracking student gains over time to build perceptions of success. Providing do-over opportunities to improve the quality of work. The truth is that success in the classroom is not about giving students easy work. It is about providing them with rigor that is achievable. Success can be the key that unlocks motivation for students. Although there are many things to think about as we consider increasing the likelihood of success for all students, the basic principles are really pretty simple. Students must feel that they are successful. Teachers must find ways to help students be successful. Think about the students you are working with this year. How many of them are success-oriented? What are you doing to keep them that way? How many of them are failure avoiders? What are you doing to change that? And how many of them are failure acceptors? What are you doing to restore their desire to learn? Your efforts to make success a reality for all students can and will make a difference for them and for you. What have you learned? Test yourself. If you can answer the 4 questions in this concept test, you are beginning to understand the basic principles of success. Number 1, how would you define success as it is related to motivation? Number 2, how does frequent success affect student attitudes toward learning? Number 3, how does frequent failure affect student attitudes toward learning? Number 4, what are 3 things teachers can do to improve the likelihood of success for all students? Now that you are beginning to understand success, which variable of motivation would you like to study next? There are more podcasts available at your fingertips. Which one will you open next?